On December 7th, 1993, an 18-year-old girl named Rose just disappeared after a night out with friends. What started as a pretty standard missing persons report soon kicked off a mystery that would go cold for years, filled with whispers of a dangerous obsession and all sorts of rumors of violence. But the craziest part, the horrifying truth was known by one person the entire time, her own best friend. So to really understand what happened to Rose, we have to go back to her very last known moments. Let's picture it. It's the night of December 6th. Rose gets home from her job at about 11:30. Her brother, who is crashing on the couch, remembers her getting into a pretty heated argument on the phone. After she hangs up, she tells him she loves him and then just heads out into the cold night. She walks to the convenience store where her mom was working her shift. She gets there around 1:30 in the morning, and her mom could tell right away that she was upset. She tried to get Rose to take the family van, but Rose insisted, "No, I'm fine, I'm just going to hang out with friends." And that was it. That was the last time her mother ever saw her. By 8 a.m. the next morning, Rose was gone.
And right away, the question that would haunt her family and investigators for years began to take shape. I mean, think about it. There was no note, no sign of any kind of struggle, and her van was still parked at home. Everyone was left with the same terrifying thought. Where in the world was Rose?
Now, to unravel the mystery of her disappearance, we've got to dig into the relationships in her life, especially one that started out as this whirlwind romance, but then spiraled into something way, way darker.
The focus of this obsession was a local rapper named John Cajo. And when I say Rose was smitten, I mean she was completely head over heels. Her older brother said she talked about John like he was some kind of god. You know, she was 18, he was a little bit older, and she just fell for him, hard and fast.
Their whole world was pretty small, really revolving around just three people: Rose, her boyfriend John, and her best friend, a guy named Billy Brown. The three of them were basically inseparable. They were always hanging out together, usually over at Billy's house.
And things moved fast. I mean, really fast. By October, just a couple of months into the relationship, Rose asks her mom if John can move in with them. Her mom was, hesitant, but Rose was 18, she pushed for it, and her mom eventually gave in. And at first, she actually thought John was a pretty nice guy.
But that all changed one day. Her mom walks into Rose's room and finds this unbelievable scene. Guns and just wads of cash laid out everywhere. She suspected the money was from John dealing drugs. And that was it. Game over. Like any parent would, she kicked him out of the house on the spot. And this, right here, this was the beginning of the downfall.
So once John was out of the house, he started to pull away from Rose. He stopped calling, he stopped coming around. He was basically trying to ghost her. But Rose was devastated. And it was like the more he ignored her, the more it just fueled her obsession. She got more and more desperate for his attention.
This desperation finally just boiled over in November of '93. Rose shows up at a party where she knew John would be, and a huge argument breaks out. In a total fit of rage, she gets in her van and just rams it into John's truck. His response was absolutely chilling. He looked right at her and said, "If you don't leave me alone, I'm going to kill you."
Just 1 month after that threat was made, Rose vanished, and that's when it all began. 3 long, frustrating, and painful years of silence, as her case went completely cold.
From that very first morning, Rose's mom knew in her gut something was terribly wrong. She called the police right away, telling them her daughter was missing. She started calling all of Rose's friends, including Billy Brown, but he wasn't home either. For just a split second, she hoped maybe they were together. But when Billy finally called back, he claimed he hadn't seen Rose in days.
So the investigation launched into full swing. Police threw everything they had at it. Helicopters were searching from the sky, while teams scoured the ground, even combing through local waterways. When all of that turned up absolutely nothing, they turned to the public, just pleading for any piece of information they could get.
And wow, did the tips start rolling in. We're talking over 100 of them. But here's the problem. They were all over the place. One person swore they saw her at the mall. Another heard a rumor she'd been beaten to death with a baseball bat. A third person claimed she was in the river. It was just an overwhelming storm of conflicting stories.
But amidst all that noise, all those crazy rumors, 2 names just kept coming up, again and again. Her ex-boyfriend John Cajo and her best friend Billy Brown. People had heard whispers at parties, things from friends of friends, but nobody had any actual proof.
So the police brought Billy Brown in for questioning, not just once, but multiple times, and they were sure he was involved. They could just feel that he was lying right to their faces. But he never changed his story. He had no idea where Rose was. And without any physical evidence, without a confession, he wouldn't crack. The case just stalled out.
So for 3 years, there was nothing. No Rose, no answers, no justice. And then, in April of 1996, the case didn't just get a new lead. It broke wide open with a single phone call that revealed a truth more horrifying than anyone could have possibly imagined.
Detectives get a call from a man wanting to talk about the Rose case, and you're not going to believe who was on the other end of the line. It was Billy Brown, the best friend who had denied knowing anything for 3 solid years. He was finally ready to talk.
And what he said next, it sent a chill right through the entire investigation. He told detectives that the night Rose disappeared involved drugs, sex, murder, and body parts, and that it all happened inside the home of John Cujo's grandparents.
So Billy, now 20 years old, laid out his version of the story. He admitted he was there. He was part of what happened that night. But he was adamant about one thing. He did not kill Rose. He pointed the finger directly and solely at John.
Okay, so with this confession, it's game on. Warrants are issued immediately. But somehow, John gets tipped off and he and his brother Tim take off, fleeing to Mexico. In the meantime, investigators swarm his grandparents' house, and in the bathroom, the crime lab finds it, the tiny piece of evidence they needed, a single drop of blood. DNA testing confirms it. It belonged to Rose. Billy's story was true. Investigators tracked John and his brother down in Mexico, where they were arrested and sent right back to Michigan to face justice.
So, with the suspects finally in custody, Billy Brown gave the police the full, detailed, and absolutely gruesome account of Rose's final hours. And according to him, this is exactly what happened that night. Billy said that in the super early hours of December 7th, around 3 a.m., John picked him and Rosa up. After driving around for a little bit, they stopped at a store on the way to John's grandparents' house. John told them he was just going to run inside to grab some stuff for the, quote, night's festivities.
It was only later that Billy learned what was actually in that bag. It wasn't snacks or drinks for some party. No. John had purchased a fillet knife, 2 bottles of charcoal lighter fluid, a hatchet, and some trash bags. This wasn't some spontaneous act of passion. This was planned. This was premeditated murder.
The confession finally brought that 3-year search for answers to a brutal end, but it left an even more disturbing question hanging in the air. It's a question that really gets at the dark side of human emotion, and it forces us to wonder, how does a teenage infatuation twist and turn into an obsession so fatal that it ends not with a broken heart, but with a shopping list for murder?